Okay, so we're doing some blanket yoga today. And if you have a blanket, grab it. It doesn't have to be a fancy blanket. It can be a fleece blanket or even just your, quilt blanket that you have on your bed. We're just going to use it to kind of help ourselves feel really comfortable today. You can also use it as a prop too, if you want. And I'll let you know kind of how I'm using my blanket. And if you choose to use it the same way, great. You don't have to. We're going to do some really gentle, slow yoga movements today. So it's not going to be a break a sweat kind of yoga. We're not even going to get up off our feet. We're going to stay seated or laying the whole time. Just supposed to be a really, I don't know about if you're here with me live, you definitely are aware of this, but if you're watching this later, just know that it's just really gross outside, like gray, dreary, rainy, one of those days you just want to curl up and stay in and do nothing. So we're kind of leaning into that with our yoga today. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off first by just opening up the blanket, and we're going to make like a cape out of it. So I'm going to take mine, drape it over myself. And we're just going to do it. And then again, you can get creative here. You can put it over your head like this, or you can do it around the shoulders like a cape. But let's just sit like this. And I'll show you. I'm going to have my hands resting on my knees, but you can have them in your lap. And what we're going to do is we're just going to sit for a second and just notice, focus and notice our breathing. So while you've got yourself all wrapped up nice and cozy, should be like a little sanctuary of warmth in there. Just invite some stillness to where you are right now. And let's just take a moment to breathe together. Nice deep inhale, filling up the lung space, and a slow, easy exhale. Let's do that again. Deep inhale, slow, soft exhale. Last one we'll do together. We're going to breathe in. Deep, deep breath. And then as you breathe out, you're going to sigh, releasing all the tension in your shoulders and your jaw and your back. Check your posture right now. And let's invite a nice strong back with a soft front. We don't have to be all straight backs, but just sitting relaxed yet alert. That's the goal. Focused relaxation. It's when our parasympathetic nervous system is doing its thing. It's relaxed yet focused. We don't want to be unconscious. We want to be relaxed yet focused. So that's what we're doing. Got my little cozy blanket here. Hopefully you're feeling pretty good. We'll start off with some folds. So we're going to stay in this kind of seated position. And what we're going to do, and you're welcome to take your blanket off whenever you want. If this inhibits you or feels weird, obviously blanket's optional. Everything we do in yoga is optional. If you ever don't want to do something, just stay on the mat, maybe take a seated position or go into child's pose, but never feel like you have to do something, especially if it feels weird or uncomfortable. Same thing is true with the blanket. If that feels cumbersome to you, then get rid of it. But I kind of like it. It feels kind of warm and weighted. So we're going to go forth and conquer. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to stick out your left leg and bring your inside of your right foot to your inner left thigh. So your foot and your heel is kind of tucked in there. My foot is out this way. And we're just going to sit up nice and straight and then bend from the hips and kind of reach. This is where I usually bring my hands up and then down. You're welcome to do that. Or you can just stay with the blanket and just bend from the hips and put your hands wherever they land. We're just going to stay here for a second. In a perfect world, we could bring the nose to the knee, but we're not going to force that. We're not going to do that. If that's not available to us today, we don't do that. We listen to our bodies. I can't do it. I'm just going to stay right here. Finding length in the back. Putting a bend in the knee if you need to. And just stay here for a moment. Thinking about your breath and sending it into that extended leg. Wherever you're feeling the stretch, just breathe into that feeling, that sensation. And slowly walk yourself back up. You can bring that leg on in and extend the other leg out, tucking the bottom of that foot we just stretched into the inside of that thigh, the extended leg. So I've got my left foot up against the inside of my right thigh. And then we're going to take ourselves, sit ourselves nice and straight, bending from the hips, folding over this leg. And just wherever your hands land, if that's on the shin, that's okay. If it's around the big toe, you can do this little pincher grasp where you've got two fingers behind the toe and then your thumb is on the nail. And then we'll just stay like this and looking towards the knee. Maybe while you're doing this, notice something nearby and really study it. Focus and notice. I'm going to take the time to notice the detail on my carpet. We're going to hold the poses a little bit longer today, so make sure you're listening to your body about where you can sustain the pose. You might be able to go deep into a pose, but not be able to hold it that long for that deep. So we want to make sure that we're going as deep as we can while still being able to hold the pose for a couple of minutes. These longer, more sustained stretches are actually really good for the deeper tissues in our body to help us really build up that flexibility, which the purpose of yoga is not to become more flexible. It's really just to learn how to quiet the mind. But a benefit of doing yoga is added flexibility. Excellent. Coming on up. Let's go ahead and put the inside of both our feet together, commonly called butterfly pose. In yoga, it's called cobbler's pose because they would make shoes this way. So what you're going to do is I'm going to keep my blanket around me. Just going to find a spot. Obviously, the stretch is going to be more intense the closer you bring your feet. So find a good distance that works for you. You're going to grab the feet and then from the hips again, we're not bending from the neck, bend from the hips and just lean into the pose. You may not go as deep this way, and that's okay. It's not a competition. Just gonna sit here in our warm and cozy blanket. And if you feel like you can go a little deeper, take a breath and go a little deeper. Again, we're holding them a little longer, so watch the breath. You may notice because you sit in the pose a little longer that you can go deeper into the stretch the longer you sit in it. So, and that's not a fluke. That's legit. Your body's like, oh, I can stay in this pose without hurting myself. Okay, I'll let up a little bit, and then you're able to bend a little further. So. Awesome. Bringing ourselves back up. Beautiful. We're now going to adjust a little bit and coming onto our hands and knees. But first, I'm going to use my blanket as support. You don't have to do this, but if you do, you may want to fold the blanket. So I'm going to fold it. And I don't know what shape your hot dog, I was thinking hot dog style. I don't know what shape your blanket is in, But I just folded it hamburger style, actually. So that's funny. I'm just gonna, fold this kind of loosely, just kind of folding it over itself a couple of times. I've got a little bit of cushion there. You can use this as a pillow. So if you're ever doing yoga and it hurts your knees, you're certainly able to use this as kind of like a buffer for the knees. So I'm just gonna like put my knees on there. Great. You don't have to do this. This is just an option. We're gonna do cat-cow. So cat-cow is where we arch the back and then we arch it the other way, right? So that's what we're gonna do. Take your hands, make sure they're directly below your shoulders. Your knees are directly below your hips and your back is nice and neutral right now. You shouldn't be looking up like this. You shouldn't be hanging low like this. Neck just kind of continues along with the spine. Imagine there's a line going up your back and it continues up your neck. So you're kind of gazing downwards at this point. Neutral neck. Beautiful. What we're going to do is we're going to take a nice deep breath in. You're going to sink the stomach down, keeping it engaged. And then you're going to exhale and arch the back the other way. This is cat. So you're like a little scared cat, arching its back. And you breathe in, coming into cow pose. Breathing out, cat pose. This is a beautiful sequence for stretching the back. A lot of our issues are in the stiffness of our backs. Let's do a few more rounds of these at your own pace, inhaling and exhaling. One more round. And coming back into a neutral position. What we're going to do now is we're going to do something called thread the needle. This is one of my very favorite ones. It feels so good on your shoulders. Obviously, listen to your body, though, because it may not feel so good on your body. So always take care to do what your body insists you're able to do. We're lifting up my right arm here. You're going to lift up your right arm. See this little space here between my arm and my leg? I'm going to send this arm through that space. I'm going to lay down on my shoulder. Should look like that, okay? I'll show you from the other side. You can stay where you are if you've already found your way there. You're lifting up your arm, sending it through that little gap, and then laying. I'm laying completely on my shoulder. My hand is just extended, using this one as kind of a prop, okay? So I'm going to come back to the right side. So lifting my right arm, sending it through the gap, and laying on my shoulder. I'm going to stay here for just a moment. Threading the needle. Notice if you're holding on to any tension here and try to see if you can relax into the pose. Beautiful. Slowly coming back out, bringing the left arm up now and threading it through. Laying on that left shoulder, using your right hand as kind of a prop if you need to. We're just going to hang out here for a second. Again, notice if you have any tension anywhere. And always come up out of the pose if you need to. Awesome, beautiful job. Coming back out into tabletop pose. We're now going to bring our big toes together. You can spread your knees out as wide as you would like. Sitting back onto your heels into child's pose. This is option 1, keeping the blanket under the knees. Let me show you now option 2. If you already found option 1 and you like option 1, No need to change. This is just another option. You can roll up your blanket, put it right behind the knees, a little more support. This is especially good if you can't make it all the way to your heels. This is a great one to do. It'll bring your heels to you, bring your legs to you. So pick the one that works for you. You can do blanket under the knees like we had it, blanket between the legs like I've got it here, or you can have no blanket at all. But go ahead and find the one that you like, and let's sit back into child's pose. If you want, you can walk your hands over to the right side, keeping the rest of your body still. You'll feel a side stretch. And walking the hands back to neutral. And on the next inhale, walking the hands to the other side. And walking the hands back to neutral. Using your hands to push yourself up gently back to a seated position. What we're going to do now is, if you have a thin enough blanket, so if you have like a comforter or a quilt, this may not work. My blanket is thin enough to kind of manipulate. I'm going to open it up a little bit. What you're trying to do is get a long kind of tube shape, about as long as your back, and you'll see why in a second. Spoiler alert, it has to do with your back. So I have like this really long kind of Swiss roll looking thing here. See, it's just like rolled up like that. I'm going to lay that on the mat. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit my hips up against the edge of it, put it square in the middle of my hips, and then I'm going to slowly lay myself down to where my spine is right on top of this thing. This is going to feel a little strange. It's not the same as just laying and relaxing. The purpose of it is to kind of give your spinal column a little massage and to kind of stimulate it at the same time, and wake it up. So I tend to have a lot of tension in my back along the sides of my spine, just those muscles directly beside the spine. And this is really great. It does feel like a little massage. As you can see, I've got the blanket here. Feel free to adjust. If this at all feels uncomfortable or strange, or like you really just can't deal with it, then please, remove it and just lay on your back. I'm also going to take my feet and bring them to where the soles are together and have my knees just drape outwards in the butterfly pose. You also don't have to do that. You could have your feet flat on the ground like this. You could even have your knees in towards each other. But let's just take a second, find the one that works for you. And let's just stay here for a moment. Also, if you're feeling like you're having to balance yourself on the blanket, or you're feeling like you're always going to fall over, then maybe pick one that's got a little more stability. I want the focus of this one to feel like you're stimulating your back, not like you're going to fall off the blanket. And slowly rolling off that blanket Never doing our transitions too quick. We're going to enter into our final resting pose. Here's where you can get really creative with the blanket. We're going to end up laying on our backs, our palms upwards, our feet, falling away from each other. Here's where you can cover up if you want, or you can use your blanket kind of like a pillow. Totally up to you, or no blanket at all. Whatever works. Get creative. I'm going to use it like a blanket. And hopefully I don't fall asleep right here. You can cover yourself fully. You can half cover. Doesn't matter to me. Feet are falling away from each other. Palms are lifted up. Find yourself breathing a little slower. A little deeper. Any incidental movements, finding some stillness there, and just taking the next 2 to 3 minutes just to rest in stillness and silence. Go ahead and start to wiggle the fingers, wiggle the toes, release the jaw. If you closed your eyes, you can flutter them open. When you're ready, slowly rolling onto one side. Transitioning gently into our seated position. I'm going to wear my cape again. Thank you so much for doing blanket yoga with me. I am so glad that you chose to come. And I hope that it was restful and peaceful and de-stressifying for you. I gotta say, this was probably one of my favorite ones I've done in a while. So I hope that you enjoyed. I will put the video up for you to watch whenever you want. So if you want to return to it later during the holidays when you just need some blanky time, go for it. So thanks again. Appreciate it. I'm going to stop the recording now.